I'm not gonna lie, guys, I'm pretty sad right now. I just went onto Cap Friendly and I checked up on the unrestricted free agents list, and these 4 names, seeing them on this list, it got me a little emotional. These 4 players are still unrestricted free agents. And as a Vancouver Canucks fan looking at this, it does pain my heart a little bit to see them in such state. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we should sign these guys, I'm not saying that they deserve a spot on our team, I'm just using this as an opportunity to take a look back into the past and acknowledge what these guys were able to bring to the Vancouver Canucks, and what they were literally able to bring to the Vancouver Canucks in terms of assets and things that we're still utilizing today. The 4 players I'm talking about here are Dan Hamhuis, Alexander Burrows, Kevin Bieksa, and Jannik Hansen. As a Vancouver Canucks fan, saying those 4 names in that string just made me really happy, and it brought me back to the golden days of Vancouver Canucks hockey. Now, if it were up to me, if it was a video game, I would sign all 4 of these guys to 2-way contracts and have them play in the Utica Comets farm system. That would be amazing. Imagine Cole Lind and Dahlin and all of them just like learning from the best of Vancouver Canucks hockey. And I know that's totally just hilariously unrealistic and out the window. What the heck? Why would you even consider that as a possibility? I know, but if it was a perfect world, that's how I would play things out. Because none of these guys are talents that would help the Canucks going forward. I think that's kind of obvious, just looking at how we perceived the Schaller, Roussel, and Beagle deals. Fans would pretty much get pissed off. But I thought this would be a great opportunity to take a look at what these players brought us. And we're going to start things off here with the guy who had the highest cap hit out of all of them, Kevin Bieksa. And when Bieksa was traded, Canucks fans were really happy because we were like, yo, we got a 2nd-round pick for Bieksa? That's great! And I think we're all going to acknowledge the fact that Bieksa wasn't necessarily all too good in his last season as a Canuck. He had a few bad turnovers that really led to some bad goals, and in key moments of games, like in the playoffs, it really wasn't the best that we could have seen out of him in his last seasons, but of course, we do acknowledge just how great he was playing for the Vancouver Canucks and the Cup run and everything, how he was a force out there in the ice, agitator and all that. He was a great player for us, and we traded him for a 2nd. But we didn't use that 2nd, because that 2nd-round pick that we acquired from the Anaheim Ducks for Kevin Bieksa was then traded with Nick Bonino and Adam Clendening over to the Pittsburgh Penguins for Brandon Sutter and a conditional 3rd. Brandon Sutter is the asset that we have on this team today that is a result of Kevin Bieksa leaving. Going over to the next guy, Dan Hamhuis, who was arguably the best defenseman in our cup run. $3.75 million of cap hit last season. Hamhuis walked. We didn't get anything for Hamhuis, and that was terrible. I still feel upset about that. The fact that the Dallas Stars went with Chris Russell, they traded for him instead of Hamhuis, and then they signed Hamhuis in the offseason. Like, really? Come on. We didn't get anything back for Verbata or Hamhuis that year, and I'm still upset about it. Okay. Hamhuis, legitimately, though, he was one of the best defensemen on the team. We were able to acquire him from the Predators, and that was such an amazing transaction because he did help us tremendously throughout the Cup run. And obviously, throughout his last season as a Canuck, we all knew that he wasn't really coming back next year. He was still solid, and he was still a player that we relied upon, but we were just looking for some stuff to get back, right? Please. I would have wanted anything. Like a 7th would have been fine. It's better than nothing, right? I digress. Man, let's just move over to the next name. I'm getting frustrated. The next guy on this list, $2.5 million of a cap hit, but a $3 million salary, 32-year-old Jannik Hansen. Hansen is low-key still sort of good. I won't deny that. Hansen is a player who still probably would be effective in an NHL role today. That's why I was really surprised to see that he's actually still a free agent. Although his most previous season with the Sharks 14 points in 46 games played, not necessarily all the best out of the Honey Badger. He used to be a consistent 20-plus point guy, but of course the most recent season was plagued by a whole bunch of games missed, so you gotta take that into consideration as well. But for the most part, the Sharks didn't want to bring him back. He wasn't necessarily all that good as he was when he was initially traded to San Jose in the most previous NHL season, but you can't deny, the Honey Badger is really fast, and although he doesn't necessarily exhibit the best amount of skill, he works really hard, and he's a guy that teams like having. He's a good presence to have out there for your team. It makes you feel better, and it makes you want to compete harder. So Jannik Hansen, really, totally a player that I could see coming back to the NHL. He was traded from the Vancouver Canucks over to the San Jose Sharks in exchange for Nikolai Goldolbin and a conditional 4th-round pick. Goldolbin, we already know about Goldolbin. I made a video about him yesterday, but the picks were actually kind of really weird. So, the pick actually wasn't used by Vancouver. It was actually traded over to Chicago. We traded this 4th-round pick that we got from the Sharks over to the Chicago Blackhawks in exchange for picks 135 and 181 in the 2017 draft. The earlier pick, 135, was not a Chicago pick, but it was a Carolina Hurricanes pick, and it was traded to the Chicago Blackhawks in that deal with Chris Versteeg and Joachim Nordstrom. So yeah, that's really convoluted and everything. I don't really know how much sense that made, but for Jannik Hansen, the Canucks got Goldolbin and a 4th. We used that 4th, and we traded it for Chicago's 181 and Carolina's 135. These 2 picks we used for Christopher Gunnarsson and Petrus Palmu. So basically, Hansen for Goldolbin, Palmu, and Gunnarsson. Not bad. Really not bad. And the final guy was actually placed on to waivers with the intent of buying out his contract, Alexander Burrows. Man, what a story with Alex Burrows. ECHL guy, AHL guy, ball hockey guy, NHL 30-plus goal guy. That's great. Honestly, what a storied career for Alexander Burrows. It's just understandable to see how things ended, and it's unfortunate as well. But we all know that Alexander Burrows was traded to the Ottawa Senators in exchange for Jonathan Dahlen. That's crazy, man. Today, we can easily see that this was a steal, but I really don't want to ignore just what Burrows brought to the Senators at the time. I mean, they were 1 goal away from a Stanley Cup final, and Burrows was an important part of that team in the Cup run. So it's not like Burrows didn't provide anything for the Senators, but of course, looking at things today, it's obvious, oh my goodness, the Senators just bought a guy out that they traded for a really good middle 6 projected prospect. So, yeah, Jonathan Dahlen is a Vancouver Canuck. So all in all, for these 4 guys who are free agents today, we basically have ourselves, from these players, Brandon Sutter, Palmu, Gunnarsson, Goldolbin, and Dahlen. One of these 5 is not like the others, that's kind of obvious here, but at the same time, I like it. I like it. I like what we have with our team right now, and I understand the value that these 4 free agents were able to bring to the Vancouver Canucks. I adore it so, and it feels bad, to be honest, looking at the free agent list and seeing all these guys still there. Again, if I was a GM, I'd sign these guys to AHL deals, have them play in the Utica Comets system, and have them develop and mentor our younger guys. That would be great. Or sign, like, Kevin Bieksa or something to be our coach or media person. That would be great, too. But, for the most part, these guys, it looks like their NHL careers are being put on a little bit of a halt unless they do get themselves NHL contracts before the start of September. So, yeah, it is kind of upsetting and disappointing, and it does make me feel a little bit sad, but I understand that it's the appropriate steps to move on. And I think all we gotta do now is just look at these guys and appreciate everything that they brought to the Vancouver Canucks, and everything that we were able to acquire for these guys. Not for Dan Hamhuis, screw that, but yeah, it's important, I think. Right? Right, I hope these guys are able to continue with their careers, their lives, and everything. If they sign NHL contracts, awesome. If they end up retiring, because, you know, one of them is 37 and he did just get bought out, but if that does happen, I wish them the best as well. I just hope that these guys remain a part of the Vancouver heart, if that makes sense. And I think that they're always going to be embedded into my ideal vision of a Vancouver Canucks hockey team because of that cup run and just everything that it meant to the city of Vancouver. But yeah, Burrows, Hammies, Bieksa, Hansen, they're all free agents still. I'm not saying the Canucks should get him, but boy, were these guys important parts to our team. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Plus, and Gaming, and bye.